Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to discuss what I did to get 3 A stars in my A levels. Along with that, I'm going to share my A level exam experience and I will give you some advice on how to ace your A levels. I'm also going to talk about the resources that I used, so I suggest you to watch this video till the end because each part of the video is equally important for improving your grades and performing successfully. So first of all, simply reading the textbook was not enough for me. It would not allow me to grasp the concept strongly. The topic that I read would not be completely understood. Just reading the textbook is boring and does not stay in your mind for a long time because of weak understanding. So, what I did instead was that I decided to become my own teacher. There is a saying that we learn 95% of what we teach someone more than any other method, and that is exactly what I experienced after teaching myself. So, after reading a certain subtopic from my textbook or revision guide, which I'm going to talk about later, I used to break down the concept I read and explain it to myself using my whiteboard, the one that you can see over here. Literally talking to myself, I had to become my own teacher as well as my own student. This greatly improved my experience in learning because I used to completely understand the contents of the textbooks because I broke the concepts down clearly as well as grasp the concept strongly, so I would be able to retain what I learned for a much longer time. Try this method, it will surely enhance your learning experience. Just talk to yourself, explain what you read to you to yourself. Treat yourself as your student as well as your teacher at the same time. Now I'm going to talk about my revision guides. So revision guides are one of the main reasons for my success in A levels. They're extremely important because they contain exactly what I needed for my A-level exams. They don't contain any extra information unlike textbooks, and they're way more significant than textbooks. They're up to the point. But I'm not telling that don't read your textbooks. I used to read my textbooks when I studied a topic for the first time, but after that I used to always learn from the revision guide. Even though they're named revision guides, they're not to be kept from for the last minute. Don't use it only for your last minute revision. I compared the objectives from the syllabus with the contents of my revision guide. I saw the revision guide contained all the information needed to fulfill each of the objectives in the syllabus. That's why I knew that I had to spend a good amount of time learning from these revision guides, not just going through them before my exams. So, before my chemistry paper 2, I was very much indulged in learning from my revision guide and my syllabus. And somehow I did not spend much time solving in past papers as I was supposed to right before my exam because I was going on learning from my revision guide. My chemistry exam paper 2 had questions whose concepts were never assessed before in the previous years. But I could answer them thanks to my chemistry revision guide, and I was able to score 57 on 60. As they contain all the contents that you need to know for your exam, spend a good amount of time learning them and not just before your exam. I'm repeating this. My physics revision guide was also very helpful because the concepts that they contained were much more simpler and clearer than the textbooks. They explained it in a much more simpler and clearer manner. So you will be able to understand the topic well and grasp the concept well. Next, I'm going to talk about how I used my past papers in the first 5 months of my A levels. And then I'll tell you about how I used my past papers in the last 1.5 month or 2 months before my exams. Both of the ways are totally different. So in the first 5 months, I used to solve topical past papers or topic-wise past papers. For physics and chemistry, I used an expanding file. This is an image of it. Each of the pocket contained a specific topic. And for maths, I used red spot books. They provide not only topical past papers, but also they include worked solutions, step-by-step working for each questions. And this is a photo of one of those books. This one. In the first 5 months, I found doing topic-wise past papers very important because solving many questions from one topic strengthens my knowledge and understanding of that topic. Basically provides a strong base for each topic rather than jumping from one topic to another. Also, I didn't solve the latest past papers while solving the topical past papers. I'll tell you why. In the last 2 months before my A level exam, or actually a month before for me, but I would suggest at least 1.5 months before your exam to start solving one complete latest paper with timer. And I have to stress on this fact that unlike IGs, A level exams have short exam duration, and one of the skills you need for success is to solve your paper within the time limit. That's why it is important for you to practice many past papers, not only your variant, but all the variants with timer. So do all the variants, at least for the latest papers, do all the variants. One complete paper at a time, basically create an exam environment. In my mocks exam, I wasn't able to complete my papers on time, and it led me to score significantly less. I was disappointed, but I knew somehow I had to increase my speed on solving my paper. So I did this with several whole complete papers, not only my variant, but all the variants in a closed room, basically creating an exam environment. And this really helped me tackle the exam paper well and complete it within the time limit. I got to know which type of questions I can solve quickly and the parts of the paper which requires sufficient amount of time. So I had a good idea on how much time I need to spend on for each type of questions. So practice one whole paper at a time and you will know your pattern if you go on practicing with timer. It is very important to stay motivated. It might be a very common advice, but it is equally important. It is very important that you have to stay motivated. Just aim to give your best, and even if you find several mistakes while solving your past papers, it is totally fine. And you don't need to lose your hope for that. Actually, you need to be happy that you got to know where you could go wrong. And this is the time to learn from your mistakes. No matter how many mistakes you make while solving your past papers, you are all good and prepared if you learn properly and understand where you went wrong from the marking scheme. When I used to find my mistakes from past papers, I used to explain it to myself or teach myself in depth the correct answer from the marking scheme using my whiteboard. Next, go through some examiner's report before your exam. Because they contain information about mistakes candidate make usually, so you can prevent yourself from doing them and do what the examiner expects you to do. Okay, so yes, examiners report, at least the latest one, go through them. They're important. Don't be nervous while writing in your exam paper. If you don't know a particular question, then leave it for the last. Don't worry about it, or else it will cause you to panic and you might not be able to answer other questions which you know well properly. This is exactly what happened during my maths mocks. The question which I knew well, also I couldn't be able to answer them properly because I panicked and I wasn't able to think properly and it affected my paper just because my whole paper, because I didn't know one of the answers. So just leave the questions you aren't sure of or you aren't confident about to be completed at last, and solve the ones you know very well first. The other most important thing was to know my syllabus well. I had my syllabus for maths printed out, and for physics and chemistry, I used Learner Guide. Knowing the content of my syllabus was extremely important or essential because in my paper 6 S1 for maths there were different types of questions which were never asked before, actually theory questions, but the objectives of the question were mentioned in the syllabus. Basically it is this is one of them, the one that I highlighted. So candidates who learned according to the syllabus and who learned according to the objectives of the syllabus were able to answer it. But the students who weren't able, who didn't go through the syllabus properly or didn't learn according to the objectives in the syllabus weren't able to answer that simple question. So please go through your syllabus, make sure you know the objectives well. That will make you prepared for the exam. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the learner guide that I used for physics and chemistry. And this is the chemistry learner guide. I printed both of them out for the physics and the chemistry one, and I binded them so that I can write on them as well. Learner guides were very helpful and important because it contains examination advice, general advice for each of the papers. As you can see, paper 1, multiple choice, tips on solving each of the papers. There are so many informations that you cannot miss out. Along with those, it contains objectives from the syllabus. The ones that you can see over here. So these are objectives from the syllabus. And there is a comment section as well where you can write what you want to write or about anything about that topic. So that was something helpful for me because I could write refer to this page, or if I haven't learned that objective, I could highlight it or write that learn this topic. So make sure that you have the updated learner guide, or if you have access to the old one only, then make sure you go through these objectives in your syllabus as well. Because the learner guide that I had was not updated with my syllabus. Maybe 2 or 3 new objectives were missing. But the main point is that you must have the knowledge about the objectives listed in your year's syllabus. And the advice, go through the advice that is there in the learner guide. Now, did I follow time management strategies while studying a lesson? No. Timetabling does not work for me. I need to make sure I understand the whole concept well first, then move to the next topic. I don't work according to time restrictions. No matter how long it takes for me to understand a concept, I will spend on that particular concept until I understand it. But if it's like 3 4 hours, or not 3 4 hours, if it is really wrong, like I have an urgent work and I cannot do that, then I used to leave it. But I used to at least spend, if I'm not able to understand it, at least good amount of time, like 2 hours at least in one concept until I understand it. So yes, I didn't work according to timetabling. I didn't really care about the time because the most important thing for me was that I need to understand the concept well. And yes, while studying a lesson, I used to take notes. While solving past papers, of course, I had to consider time management. As I've already mentioned that the exam duration is short for A-level examinations. So practice a lot of recent papers for of all variants with the timer. That is very important. And I did that and it really helped me. I had a huge difference between my A level exams and my marks. This was one of the reasons. And yes, if I did mistakes, the mistakes that I found out while solving past papers, I used to take notes of them as well. So, lastly, just remember that you got this and prioritize your studies after your health and your family. They come first, and right after them, you have to prioritize your studies, and you will be able to do well. I hope you all do great in your A levels. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Also, let me know in the comment section about your concerns regarding A levels, if any. Thank you.